Welcome to Read Your Comics. Today I'm looking at X-Men number 41. Thanks for joining me today. I'm continuing to look at the Age of Apocalypse from a 30-year retrospective. Today I am doing Legion Quest Part 4. This is the storyline that leads into the Age of Apocalypse, and it is also the final part. As you could tell by this pretty awesome cover by Andy Kubert, it's going to be the death of Xavier. If you read this at the time, you probably knew this because at this point it was like all in the solicitations. Retailers were telling you this. This book was billed as the death of Xavier. To all things an ending. I mean, and it's a pretty awesome cover with Magneto in the Magneto costume, clutching Charles Xavier laying on the ground. You know, we're not going to see Magneto in costume like this in the book, but it is an awesome, awesome cover. It even has like a little silver foily looking or metallic ink. It's not really foil, it's just kind of metallic ink. So, pretty awesome cover. And before I jump into it, though, I just want to give a quick shout out to all the viewer support. All your likes, shares, and comments are much appreciated. If you're enjoying these videos, please leave a comment. You know, just anything. Just thumbs up. Hey, this was an awesome video. Hey, I hated this video. You stink. Whatever you want to leave a comment, just leave a comment. And if you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe. I'm going to throw a graphic up right about here. Go ahead and do that. Subscribe. You'll never miss another video. And it does all those cool logarithmic things for YouTube. So let's go ahead and jump into this one. Andy Kubert did the cover. He's going to be doing the interiors too. So we're going to get some pretty wild 90s kind of layouts here. So here's going to be, I'm going to express some of my frustrations with what was going on with X-Men at the time anyway, with these crossovers, is there was a different writer on each title, different artist on each title. And while the story is somewhat coordinated, there's definitely like some glaring continuity errors that from chapter to chapter of this crossover event, that it's just, when you're reading it this way, it's just hard to ignore. Okay. So first of all, none of these characters were in costume in the last issue. They're trapped in the past. According to this, it was 20 years ago. This is 1994, by the way, that this came out. So 20 years ago was 1974. There's some timeline error here too with Magneto being Holocaust survivor in 1974. He's portrayed as like a man in like his 30s here. I mean, he should have at least been, if he was a teenager in the Holocaust, he should have probably been about in his 50s, really. I mean, 30 some odd years had passed. So, you know, there's some weird timeline stuff. It's that sliding time scale, and it worked for so long for Marvel, but really it's like it falls apart for me in this. It didn't bother me back in 1994 when I read this, but reading it now, it does bother me. So I'm just going to go ahead and lay that out there. I like the story of Magneto being a Holocaust survivor. It just doesn't work with the way the characters are portrayed in this 20 years ago time travel story. Anyhow, now Storm, I'm okay with her being in a costume because Storm's always been able to just use her electromagnetic powers or whatever she does to like turn herself into a costume. Iceman, once again, he just turns to ice. But these two did not have their costumes, and as far as I know, they don't have the power to just make it materialize. But here we are. Anyway, so in the last chapter of Legion Quest, the official chapter, I've done a couple videos of some interludes, but the last numbered chapter of Legion Quest, David Haller, Legion, who's over here, he had started to attack Magneto or Eric Lensher in the past. And so they're like up in the sky battling. And this is the first time Xavier's seen his powers. It's the first big demonstration of mutants to the world. Big deal going on right here. In fact, that's what they're saying in this like dialogue, like this can't be happening, because that's what Storm said at the front page. She said this cannot be happening. And they're like, it is happening, Storm. And They're like, well, Xavier never told us about something like this going on, so it doesn't make any sense that it's happening. Surely we would have known that there was a big battle in the past. So they're figuring out very quickly that this is going to be like a paradox. It's going to create a paradox. Fabian Nicieza is the writer in this one. You know, you have Scott Lobdell doing the other one. And again, it's like in the last chapter, I pointed out how the two writers not really communicating didn't quite work because there was this weird like jump in what was happening with them. It does pick up pretty well here. I mean, you're probably missing like, 3 minutes of whatever the action started. Great figure work here, positioning Xavier, who's, been hurt. He's with Gabriel Haller, and they're having to go through like all the explanation of kind of what's been happening the last few issues. That the amnesiac patient that they had been treating is saying that he is the son of the two of them, and Xavier's kind of like, I actually kind of believe it. Just seeing what's going on, I'm going to believe it. He's going to reach out to Psylocke, who he doesn't know, but she knows him, and they have like well, first he puts Gabriel Haller to sleep to keep her safe. Man, Bishop's hair grew out too over the last issue. It definitely wasn't that long. The last issue I did of X-Men, I complained about the coloring, and some of those same flaws are happening in this. Things just get muddy and hard to tell what's going on, I think, sometimes, especially with all this magenta from their energy flying around. The X-Men basically come and try to tell Xavier what's going on. They get their memories back for the most part, and they kind of fill him in, and he accepts it. Young Xavier here accepts it for what it is. 4 pages of ads. Get through them. Now we get to jump back up to the present day. This is another awkward reading experience for this too. So I did the Cable issue already that in a way takes place kind of before this, kind of overlaps with this. And it's kind of neat to get like different perspectives of the same thing happening. But if you were to read this like in a collected book, it would just be awkward, right? So chronologically, you have to be well versed in how monthly comics worked, I think, for this to be acceptable to you. If you were trying to read this as just a linear chaptered book or episodic kind of thing, I think that would be something to struggle with. I think you had to be a little well versed in what was going on with comics, how Marvel comics, DC comics kind of worked. So we're going backwards a little bit. Interesting little thing here with Lilandra. Now, here she looks more holographic. In the other issue I showed you, she looked crystalline, her holographic image. The inconsistency, that's my biggest complaint, is it was like so inconsistent. It should be like, hey, colorist, when she's a hologram, she should look either always look like this or always be that like crystal look or whatever, But I don't even know that they meant for her to just be a solid color like this. So inconsistency there. I feel like Xavier was in a standard wheelchair in the other issue. Angel's costume was red in the Cable issue, just the inconsistencies. But we get this moment between Rogue and Gambit. Again, we got that in the Cable issue, and we get it again here. And it does kind of line up pretty well, actually. But I mean, you're just getting it again. And then Angel goes to like hang out with Scott and Jean. A little added moment, I guess, than what happened there. Now this is the big moment here. We're jumping back to the past. It says the past. And people are watching it on TV. This big mutant battle happening in Israel. And look who steps up, watching it, monitoring it, and saying, this is happening sooner than my sinister associate had predicted. But it just means it's time for me to come out of the shadows myself. So that's setting it up, right? That's it's time for Apocalypse. The mutant uprising has already started, or the mutant public unveiling has begun, and Apocalypse is going to be there to, take over. And they're just continuing the fight. There's the whole, like, would you go back in time to kill Hitler kind of thing going on here with, but it's not baby Hitler, it's, it's adult Magneto kind of saying, you're basically putting me on trial for atrocities I haven't even committed. Maybe this whole encounter will change me. And he's just like, no, there's no way that's going to happen. Xavier's tried to change you several times, and he kind of has a point. Xavier has tried to get through to Magneto and change him several times, and it's never really worked. And he's just kind of, I mean, that's basically what all this dialogue is. Let's pause to open up our cards. Did I get that Wolverine foil chase card that was advertised in the Wizard issue that I didn't know existed? Look, see, this one I never opened for sure. Kind of neat. You can just kind of slide it open. Did I get the Wolverine chase card? That's going to be our skeleton thing. Skeleton Warriors. Angel. That's for John's Comics with Kids right there. That's for you, John. If you're watching this, John, that card is for you. All right, Archangel, I should say. So that's it for these. I did not get the Wolverine chase card in any of the issues that I had here. Legion just kind of giving old Magneto the what for, the business, taking him down. Great action shots here. This is kind of like just full of like action. This is the climax of this whole storyline, right? Now, Iceman does something pretty out there in this that he says he's never done it before. To stop Legion, he freezes every molecule in his body and turns him into a popsicle, more or less. And that's insane. I mean, look at the face. It even looks like he has like a fang. Like, is that just inked weird, or does it look like he's growing ice fangs? So, and even this is cool. Check this out. Look how he's like, I bet this is supposed to be part of his ice right here, and it was just colored wrong. But his ice is like almost like a smoke trail leading him up. He's not riding an ice sled. Now, his powers have been kind of going extreme around this point, I think. For a while, I think he had to use like a belt or something to keep him under control. But maybe he'd been using them pretty freely. But that's why he has all these like spikies and stuff on him, which is kind of neat, right? And a few issues ago, he was just looking like Snowman, kind of. But he was also amnesiac and maybe just kind of relearning to use his powers. Anyway, freezes every molecule of Legion's body. Pretty insane. They're all kind of taken aback by it, but they knew it had to happen. They had to stop him. Charles is there, and he's a little overwhelmed by everything that's happening, as he should be. This is probably a decade before he forms the X-Men, the original team. He's just kind of taken aback by it. But of course, Legion isn't completely stopped. He's able to bust out of it because he has crazy powers that can do almost anything. I mean, he traveled through time with his powers. So he goes over, he kind of just knocks all them back. Well, he does like a psychic feedback thing up here, knocks them all back, and he's going to go finish off Magneto once and for all. He's going to kill Magneto so that Xavier can form his X-Men and fulfill his dream of human and mutant harmony without the obstacle of Magneto. This has typical Kubert style positioning, this like leaning over and one kind of a limp body hanging down. I think the inking and coloring gets a little weak here too with the line work. I like Kubert's. I like both the Kuberts. I think Adam is the more experimental one, but I do like Andy too. I just think the inking kind of falls. It gets weak in places. And The coloring hurts it too. Anyway, he's gonna finish him off. He gets his like a side blade, kind of like Psylocke does. And you see Xavier saying, nope, he's wanting to do this and he's doing it in my name, and I'm not going to allow that. So he jumps over there and he gets in front of it, and Legion stabs Xavier in the brain with his blade thing. And then we get the memorial for Grant Morrison. And that does it. I mean, look at this like crazy feedback. So if Xavier's dead, that means no Legion. So Legion vanishes. If there was no Legion, that means the other X-Men were never there, and they get like stretched out and sflinked out of existence. Except for Bishop, because he was already time displaced. He was a chronal anomaly already. Bishop is left behind. And here's something like our cover. You have Magneto clutching a limp, dead Charles Xavier and vowing to uphold his dream in the moment. This is a nice juxtaposition here. We have young Magneto, and then we go back to the present day. This is the current Magneto, who had been like kind of brain wiped just maybe a year before, I guess, was when the Fatal Attraction story was, where Xavier mind wiped Magneto. So he's up on Avalon or Asteroid M. Avalon, I guess is what they're calling it, the space station, with his acolytes, Exodus, and so forth. And they're turning this Crystallian thing because that's what's been like this time anomaly has been sweeping through the universe back to this point, more or less. So they don't even know. They don't even know what's going on. And Magneto, I'm surprised he's even sitting up because he was kind of brain dead. And they all get just turned to whatever. You get the kiss between Remy and Rogue here, just as the world is ending. And they're watching it. And that's a similar moment to what we saw in the Cable issue just a couple weeks ago when I did the Cable issue. And you see them all turning. And I guess this is stuff that was going on in the other books. I covered this one with Wolverine and Sabretooth. There's the scene where Wolverine pops the middle claw up right at the end. This must have been X-Force. No idea what that was. Generation X. Maybe it was X Factor. I don't know. The X-Men themselves. Maybe Excalibur is what's going on here. I don't know. No, this is maybe X Factor with Strong Guy. Maybe I don't know what was going on with this. You've got the Eric the Red character, and I want to say this character's name was Extreme. I'm surprised that was included. But this is definitely X-Force. What this ship is, that might have been Excalibur. I wasn't reading all the X books at the time. I was really, like I've said in a few videos, I was reading X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, Wolverine, and I just started Generation X. It was only 4 issues into the series. So that should have been the hint that this wasn't going to be any kind of permanent thing, really, but I was kind of naive at the time. Everything shatters, and that's how the universe ended. So next we visit the X-Men. We're starting the official Age of Apocalypse. It's an awesome storyline, I think, and I'll get into my criticisms of it as we start getting into those issues. The only thing I think that kind of hurts the story overall, like happening at the time, was this only affected the X books. You have this like the universe is turning to crystal and nothing else is affected except for these like 8 X books or whatever. So, Spider-Man at the time was actually going through the Clone Saga simultaneously as this was happening. Hulk was just chugging along with Peter David. Punisher was kind of waning off. Daredevil wasn't really great at the time. I think it was that Fall from Grace story had just happened or was happening or something. The Ghost Rider Spirits of Vengeance popularity was starting to kind of die down a little bit. It was just an odd time, but X-Men still on top of the game, still on top of the charts, and they're having the big mega event that's just going to like take them kind of off the map for a little while, at least for the next 5 months, right? Anyway, that's all I got for this one. Hope you've enjoyed Legion Quest. Next time we visit the X-Men will be Age of Apocalypse. Until then, read your comics. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed my breakdown of this issue, you can support the channel by hitting subscribe. It costs you nothing and helps other comic fans find the channel. You can also visit readyourcomics.com for cool merch, like this. Read Your Comics isn't just a brand, it's a mantra. And when you wear a Read Your Comics shirt, you are helping spread the word. For more classic comics conversation, be sure to follow me on Instagram at read.your.comics. And if you're still here, why not watch one of my older videos? Here or here.